Good day to you and hello, Megan Macdonald.
Hi, how great to be doing something with Megan and me. And
Yes, so Megan and Megan. You don't often get that, do you? We're
no,
M&Ms.
yes.
Well, welcome to the Holistic Healing Revolution Mastermind.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here and to talk to you.
Oh, wonderful. So I'm just going to give some information about a chronic disease. So preventing chronic disease requires a proactive approach to your health. By making small, consistent changes to your diet, exercise routine, stress management practices, and healthcare habits, you can significantly reduce your risk of developing chronic conditions. Traditional medicine often focuses on treating the symptom of chronic diseases with medications or surgery. While these treatments can be effective, they don't address the underlying causes of the disease. A holistic approach, on the other hand, considers the whole person, body, mind, and spirit, and aims to identify and treat the root causes of the illness. Today, we are going to be looking at one such treatment protocol that works for any and all human illnesses. So don't wait until tomorrow to take control of your health. Start today. So we welcome you once again, Megan Macdonald, and I'm just going to share with the audience all about you. You bring together self-healing methods and has a background in academic study of ritual and belief. It was curiosity about your own chronic pain as a teenager that led you to investigate over 20 healing modalities. Since 2014, you have been working with individuals and groups on 6 continents, both in person and online, to promote well-being and raising consciousness. You have a PhD in performance of belief and is a published author. You have seen the most profound changes in your own health through 2 methods in particular. And one of these methods we are discussing today. And what is that? That is urine therapy, the science behind why urine therapy is your perfect healing practice. So welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much. That really is why all of us are here, right? It's because something
Mhm.
happened to us that put us on a journey. And that happened to me. Started when I was 16, but it has been going. I'm 47 now, so it's been 30 years of looking for things that will really work and be permanent. And so thank you for putting this on and for pointing people toward things that are either free or easy to access or don't require that you see someone every week for the rest of your life.
Mhm.
Like these are the things you can actually get your hands on. So thank you
Correct.
for doing that.
Exactly. And you can actually do them in the comfort of your own home, in your own time, and when you feel it's necessary. So let's dive deep into this subject. So, would you tell us a little bit about your own journey and how you got into urine therapy, and particularly the science behind it to help us understand why it is so powerful?
So in 2013, I was doing yoga teacher training, and the teacher, I didn't know this ahead of time, had been doing urine therapy for 30 years. And someone asked a question and said, how do you start it? And that day, there wasn't time for a whole lecture seminar on it, but she had said, you could take every time you go to the bathroom, just catch a few drops on your fingers. You don't need a cup or a jar or anything, just a few drops and rub them into the back of one hand and do that as often as you remember for 3 days and then compare your two hands. Now, I have always had very dry skin. If you're someone who has very oily skin, this might not be as dramatic as it was for me. But my skin was so dry. I had moisturizer in every pocket, every bag, next to the bed, in the bathroom. That was something I was always dealing with. And after 3 days, the back of my left hand was happy and moisturized, and the color was good, and the back of my right hand was still scaly and dry. And it was so obvious that my body liked it. And I was just thinking moisturizer. I'm like, this is great. It's a moisturizer. And then, of course, I went, well, my face is dry. So then I put it on my face. And then I started using it when I got out of the shower. I would just do my whole body with, and also 1 to 2 tablespoons of fresh urine. And as soon as it went into my skin, Like there's no smell because it doesn't off gas. The ammonia doesn't break down. So you don't smell like pee. Nobody notices. And you don't have to wash it off because it's completely absorbed. It's not like it's sitting on top of your skin. So that's how I started. But the shift was not what I was expecting. I had had really bad skin my whole life. I'd had bad digestion my whole life. And when I was 26, so about 9 years before I got into urine therapy, I'd gone off wheat. I had incredibly red, dry skin on my face. It was always bumpy, always red. It looked awful. And when I stopped eating wheat, my gut started to heal. And I had chronic ear infections, chronic tonsillitis, headaches, joint aches. I was bloated for 20 years from the age of 6 to 26. When I stopped eating wheat, I suddenly discovered what an unbloated tummy felt like. I thought I knew the difference, but I just knew the difference between regular bloating and distended. I didn't actually know what it felt like to not be bloated. And so by the time I found urine therapy, my body had done a lot of healing because it had been about 10 years, my gut had gotten a break. But when I added Shivambhu, which is the Sanskrit word for urine therapy, into the mix, more things started to work better. There were new layers and new levels, and my skin, which I thought was good, improved even more. There was more there to be done. My gut had more healing to do. So for me, it became this thing that was available all the time, that was safe to use, that I started to feel grateful to it. And with that, at the time in 2013, when I discovered this, it was really just books. The internet was not full of information on it. There were no chat groups about urine therapy. There are now. There's groups all over the place, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Telegram, on, everywhere you go, you can find people talking about it now if you're looking. But I read these books, and part of what got me was the science. And my teacher approached it with the science as well. And one of the main things she pointed out right away was, in the womb, babies pee into, and fetuses at this point, before they're fully formed at all. Within the first 8-9 weeks, the fetus is able to start peeing. And that urine is there. So from not the first 2 months, but from the second month onward. So if you're full term, you have 7 months of floating in your own pee. And the longer you're in there, the more you pee. And you're looping it, is what we call it, because you pee it out in the amniotic sac, and you drink it back in, but you also breathe it in through your nose. It's going into your lungs. It's nourishing your tissues. It's helping your tissues grow because it's full of stem cells. And her point, which I use a lot when people say, oh, but it's toxic and dirty and wasteful. If urine were dangerous to the human being at all, it would not be in the amniotic sac when we are at our most vulnerable, when we are developing, when every cell and piece of DNA has to be perfect in order for us to come out healthy on the other side. That environment needs to be ideal. And if urine is part of the ideal environment for a fetus to turn into a baby, to turn into a human, then it's not dangerous to us.
I've never heard it explained that way. In fact, I didn't even give that thought. I think my understanding, and maybe everyone else's, is we just told it's embryonic fluid, and I never ever thought it was urine. But that's why a baby comes out and it's so soft. The collagen is beautiful. The baby is soft as anything. I mean, baby skin, you can't get better. And it's all due to the urine. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's one of the most wonderful things I find about how it all works, that it's all the things that are in urine. I mentioned stem cells, but urea is one of the main things. And urea is used in really expensive creams that we pay extra for to put on our bodies. Urea is emollient, and it helps the moisture actually go into the cells deeply, but it also creates a barrier on the skin. And we can look this up again in dermatology texts. They talk about the benefits of urea and what it does for the skin. But then it says you can buy 10% urea cream or 15% urea cream. They don't then say, by the way, your urine has urea in it, and you can rub it on your skin all day for free.
Well, I guess they wouldn't be making money on their creams if they told us that, right?
Yeah. So this is, again, like when we look at the science is out there, this has been studied. There are lots of, specifically on urea, there are so many studies that have been done on how good it is for our skin. It creates a stronger skin when you regularly put urea on.
No ways. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. So tell us what urine is actually made up of, because I think we need to debunk some myths and some truths about urine. I think most of us, as we listen to this, could be grossed out and
Yes.
think, oh my gosh, what, you're expecting me to drink my urine? We've been taught it's a waste product, that it's dirty, that there's no benefit to it, that it's yucky, and the sooner you flush it down the toilet, the better for all of us. Now my interest is peaking, because tell me more. What is the truth about urine? What is it made up of? How can we utilize it? And what kind of practice can we get into with urine therapy, especially around what we're dealing with here, which is chronic disease?
Absolutely. So urine is about 95% water. And that water is water that is coming out of your blood. Your kidneys are filtering your blood. And the kidneys are the most highly developed filtration system that we know of. And they've tried to replicate it. Dialysis is a machine trying to do what the kidneys do. And a dialysis machine can do it for a while, but it's not as good as the kidneys. We can't make something as good as the kidneys. And so the kidneys take your blood and filter it. And what are they filtering it for? They are mostly taking out excess. It's extra. It's not dirty. So think about, if you drink a liter of water, your kidneys are trying to maintain the viscosity of your blood. They're trying to maintain your blood at just the right amount of water so that it moves in your body in an ideal way. As one example, water being one thing they're going to filter out. But the kidneys are also going to filter for minerals, vitamins, enzymes, proteins, like whatever's in your body. Your kidneys want to keep your blood in perfect harmony, perfect balance. Mm-hmm. So if you have extra of something, they're going to pull it out because it's more than you need. So water is a good example. You drink a liter of water, then you really have to go to the bathroom. Your kidneys have pulled out the extra water. That water isn't it's the same value to you as when it went in the sense of it's still good water. There's nothing wrong with it. It didn't become dirty because you drank it.
Right.
And that water, when it comes through you, though, because again, the body is so intelligent and so beautifully made, we end up with a structured water. So you may have heard of hydrogen water, you may have heard of structured water or fourth phase water or plasma water. That's what your water is once it's been treated by your kidneys in particular, but your body, when it comes out that other side, it is more available to hydrate your cells. So I said 95% water. The other 5%, about 2.5% to 3% is urea and uric acid. And that depends, the percentage can change. And then the other 2.5% to 3% is everything else. And when I say everything else, if you were to do a search online in general and say, what makes up urine? You might find 10 to 20, maybe 50 things listed, depending on what website you click on. In a medical textbook, they might have 100 to 200 things. However, the University of Alberta in Canada has been doing a study for close to 20 years, I believe. In 2013, they published a paper, and I know they've already been going for at least 10 years by 2013. So we're looking at about 20 years now, minimum, that they've been doing this study. It's called the Human Metabolome Study. They're looking at cerebral spinal fluid, blood, sweat, saliva, urine, species. So all different things that come out of the body, and they're seeing which metabolites or chemicals, but this again includes minerals, enzymes, antibodies, proteins, heavy metals, like what they can identify, both those that are made by the body or endogenous, and those that are not made by the body but can still be found in the urine or the blood or the sweat that they can identify. Okay. And they found over 3,000 in the urine that are endogenous, that we make ourselves.
Every day.
Potentially. Now, you might not have all 3,000 every day, but they can be traced. If your body's making it, it can be found in the urine. So maybe on any given day you have 1,000, maybe you have 2,000, maybe you do have all 3,000 every day. That I don't know, but there are over 3,000 that we make endogenously to the body. And the things that we make endogenously include things like zinc and copper and vitamin C and most of what you would try to buy in a supplement store. There are some things that we don't make, but the number that we do, if you think over 3,000 that our body will make itself.
That's incredible.
And a lot of the other things that can be found in urine, because they found over 5,000 total in urine, and they're still going. They think there's more. A lot of those other ones, if you ate a type of food that had a certain thing in it that we don't produce endogenously, that can also be traced in the urine. So when you're drinking your urine back in, you are getting tiny, tiny, tiny amounts. Because again, we're talking 95% water, 2.5% uric acid, 2.5% of everything else. If there's 3,000 things in everything else, even if there's 1,000 things in everything else, they're tiny, tiny, tiny amounts. So think of them as homeopathic doses, or like a vaccine in that sense. You're giving yourself the teeny tiniest amount of something to give your body information and either say, go find this and pull it out, or you're saying, go find this and make more. Right? Depending on what it is. And this is what's so amazing about urine therapy is when we start either rubbing it on the skin, drinking it, doing nasal rinses with it, using it for enemas, we're putting it back in the body and the body recognizes it because the body just made it.
Of course.
It doesn't need a guidebook. When we take a multivitamin or a probiotic, or we take something like that, it was made outside the body. And first the body has to decide, what is this? And what do I do with it? And how do I synthesize it? And where do I send these things? The body has to figure it out first. It has to digest it. When you put your own urine back in your body, the body takes a moment to go, do I know you? And it goes, oh yeah, I know you. It's a very fast turnaround. And so the body knows what to do with these things. And it's not as much energy that to waste, especially if you're sick and your body's really trying hard to help you. Urine doesn't take your body a lot of time to figure out what's going on because it made it.
Okay.
So all of these things that we made. So if I've been making vitamin C, the vitamin C that's in my urine is bioavailable to me, more bioavailable than anything I can buy. And if it's something else, it's been synthesized by my system. So if I ate 5 oranges and put a lot more vitamin C in my system, and now it's coming out through my urine, my body might not have been able to, it didn't need all that vitamin C 2 hours ago, but now it needs it. And so when I drink it back in, it can reuse some of that vitamin C and it's not wasted. As an example of how it could work. But one of the ways that we know that urine does this, that it has antibodies, that it has what we need in the moment. There are so many reports of people who have out in the desert, out in the jungle, they have no way to get to a doctor. They get bitten by an insect or a snake, and they start to have a reaction. And if they can pee, some people say within 30 seconds, some people say within a minute, it depends, but very quickly, your body has produced the antibody. It's in the blood. It's been filtered by the urine, by the kidneys. It's now in the urine. If you can put the urine on the area that was bitten, if you can rub it in the whole area, and if you can drink it, people report that it either disappears or it gives them time to get to the doctor.
That's incredible. How come we've never been told that? People are cutting blood, sucking the blood. I mean, we've all seen that in the movies. All you had to do is drink your own urine. Come on. That's amazing.
It can also work with food poisoning. It can work for anaphylaxis. You still might need help, later, but it can get you. So it buys you time. If it doesn't get rid of it completely, it can help you get to where you need to go.
That's
and
amazing.
this is what trying to get our mind around. It's not waste. It's not dirty. Now, I'm not expecting people listening to this to go, I'm going to be fine drinking my urine right away, because we've been conditioned. We have decades of thinking, ick, no, that I shouldn't touch that. I have to clean it. I have to get rid of that thing. So it took me 6 months from when I first heard about it and I was rubbing it all over my body and I saw how much my body liked it, I still couldn't drink it for 6 months.
Okay.
So, and some people who I talk to, they go home, they start drinking it right away, but they can't rub it on their body.
No ways.
Because that makes them feel icky.
Okay.
Because it's like, it's all over me. Well, now what do I do? So everyone's different in the thing that they feel comfortable trying.
Mm-hmm. But
basically your body's making your urine for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's available and it's free. And even if what you take from this talk today is that you have something in your medicine cabinet, in your toolbox, and that in the future, at some point, maybe you might need it. And maybe someday you use it once, that's enough. You know it's not going to hurt you. And that's the main thing to get across here.
Totally is. Yeah, totally is. You literally got a medicine in your bladder.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's incredible. So, tell me about, I've heard stories that, you're on this journey to heal yourself, but you're a smoker, or you're just having too much alcohol only because of the sugar content with the alcohol. That's your worry. And you suffer from diabetes, you're overweight, you need to lose weight to get better, you've got inflammation. So you're either a smoker, you like your alcohol, but it's the sugar content there, or you just cannot give up the sugar yourself. And you have to, because that's causing part of your chronic condition. I've heard that if you start drinking your urine, that it can actually help. It becomes less of a struggle to quit those things. So yes. I just want to put that out there as an encouragement to people that if you are in that category, this could be for you. And definitely if you have a chronic illness, I mean, it heals everything, but let's just add the craving side to it as well. Can you just expand on that?
Absolutely. So part of what urine does, and people come back over and over again, people that I've coached, people who've been in other groups that I've been in who are urine therapy groups or Shivambhu groups, they will say they've been trying to kick their chocolate addiction, their French fry addiction, their smoking, cannabis, alcohol, fried food, whatever it is. Even things like watching too much television, because the addiction is part of this sense of wanting to, there's something's missing, right? Or you want support, or you want stability, or you want to feel comforted, or there's something going on with all of those patterns. And when you start using urine, two things happen. One is, if it's food-based, you taste what you ate. So if you have deep fried food, you're going to taste that oil, and very little deep fried food oil is good. Most of it's not great quality. So your urine's going to tell you how it tastes. If you eat things that are highly processed, again, they're going to be saltier and they're going to have more pungent taste on the other side when you drink your urine. So people start going, wait a minute, do I want nice urine tomorrow because I know my urine's going to help me, or do I want to eat this thing right now? Yeah. And it makes it a lot easier to not pick the thing that you've struggled with. And so it's not that urine eradicates the addiction, it's that it takes some of the struggle out of the addiction. It helps us to not struggle with it, because we start to see that what we eat is affecting what we're producing, how much work our body has to do to get us to the other side of that. And so, especially with food related things, or even with smoking, because smoking can affect the taste of urine as well, that becomes an easier way to stop the behavior that we've struggled with. If it's not food related, part of what urine does is that it is often negatively charged. It is often also alkaline, or at least it's a neutral, like it's right on that in between, like it's just tipped into the alkaline area. It's not generally not acidic. It can be, but your body's trying to produce that. It's got a very high vibration. It's got a very high frequency because it's your blood. So again, we go back to your blood is your life force. And in yoga, it's your prana, your life force is in your blood. In Chinese medicine, your chi is in your kidneys, in your blood. So we're looking at, this is, your blood is revered. We all think blood is amazing. This is your filtered blood plasma. Your urine is, a scientific word for urine is blood plasma ultrafiltrate.
Okay.
So ultrafiltrated blood plasma. So this is a high vibration, high frequency thing. When you put that back in your body, even if you're rubbing it or you're doing a foot soak or you're putting a cloth on your forehead that's soaked in it, even if you're not drinking it, you are giving your body your frequency. You're putting more of you back in you. What are you going to feel when there's more of you in you? You're going to feel more stable. You're
Precisely.
going to feel more supported because you are supporting yourself. And that helps with addictive behaviors. That helps to not reach for something outside of ourselves to soothe an emotion, a thought, a difficult situation, because we don't need the external. We have ourselves and we have more of ourselves. So we become more us. And what's happening when we have a chronic illness? Something is in us that doesn't feel right. It's not repeating the pattern of health. It's not repeating the pattern of the divinity of how we were created. And my teacher would talk about Shivambhu as going hunting. Now, I've said Shivambhu a few times. Shivambhu comes from Shiva, Lord Shiva, one of the tri-head gods in the Hindu and other traditions. And Shiva is known as the god of destruction, but also the god of awareness, the god of consciousness, the god of auspiciousness. And Ambu is the word for water in Sanskrit. And so you put Shiva and water together and you get holy water, water of God, divine water, but also water of consciousness, water of awareness, water of auspiciousness. And so what Shiva, if we take that Shiva energy and apply it to this is more of a philosophical way to look at urine, but the urine goes hunting and finds the things in you that are not best for you, that are not of you, that are in the way. So that's why we say it helps pull out disease. It pulls out that which is not of us. And when that is removed, if we talk energy flows, blood flows better, lymph flows better, like everything starts to move the way it's supposed to move. And we become more conscious, more aware. We become more ourselves. So even the philosophical understandings, like why did people 5,000 years ago, the oldest texts we have from India are 5,000 years old, they put the word Shivambhu on urine. They did not put the name of God on everything. But 5,000 years ago, people thought it was necessary to use that name because this liquid was so powerful.
Wow. The lost healing powers from so long ago.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I'm hoping now people aren't as grossed out maybe by this topic and so afraid, like not for me. Let's just say they're more willing than to just rub it on their skin. They're going to give it a try. You could do it. A lot of people I know do it at home, do enemas. Now I know usually with an enema they use coffee. Now, could you replace the coffee with urine and instead do your enema with urine? Would that work? And also, that's one way of trying it without having to drink it if you that just is grossing you out right now. Or rectal application, and how would you do that? Could you just walk us through that and the science behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll also just throw out there with everything that I talk about with urine therapy. I'm not a medical doctor. This is not advice in terms of everybody's body is specific. Your urine is never trying to hurt you. And depending on what's going on with you, different things can happen. So the advice across the board is go slowly. Go slowly. And by go slowly, I mean, try a drop on your hand and rub it in, or a few drops and start on somewhere small. Or if you don't want your hand, do your ankle or your knee, if that's the easiest thing to reach. Try something small with a few drops for 2 or 3 days or a week. I know some people who put one drop under their tongue and they were not constipated.
Wow.
That's all it took for them. Other people had to get into a process of drinking it every day, like a cup every day for 3 months, and then they started to see a change. So this is everyone's body's different,
Right.
but starting slowly lets you observe. And then when you add a bit more, you know what changes or what doesn't change. So when we get to enemas, coffee enemas are studied and we know that they help stimulate certain things. There's certain chemicals in coffee that help stimulate the vagus nerve, the portal vein. They work on the liver. They do things in a specific way. Fresh urine will do some of the same things that coffee will do, but I can't claim it's going to do everything. So if there's something specific about coffee that you're working with, you could still do a coffee enema. But here's what urine does do that coffee doesn't and water enemas don't, is it hydrates. People always talk about, if you're doing a lot of enemas, be careful, you could be dehydrating your intestine, or at the very least your rectum and your colon, because an enema might not get all the way, your intestine's really long. You're not going to go all the way up there unless you're doing colonics. So when you put urine in, the urine, again, I said already, it's very hydrating to drink it. It's fourth phase water. It's structured water. So when you put that in your intestine can just soak it right in. And it knows what to do with it. It's also full of nutrition. We've already mentioned this. So it's high level nutrition, high level hydration. So if you're doing coffee enemas and you follow up with a cup of fresh urine, you're going to be more hydrated. You're going to help your whole intestine to be better after. Sometimes I've done a coffee enema and I've boiled it up the way I'm supposed to, let it cool, and then I will add fresh urine to it. I will add that hydration into the coffee
so you
enema.
can do the coffee and urine together.
You can. And as you mentioned, if the whole idea of an enema is too much, there's a thing in Ayurvedic medicine called a basti. Now, a basti is normally an oil implant, warm oil that gets put in at night, and you lay down, and it's meant to hydrate that area. Again, it's meant to make things slipperier and lubricated and help with all sorts of things. Oil is very powerful in Ayurvedic medicine. And so I have borrowed the term basti, and because urine implant just doesn't sound good. And what I'm talking about is this is a teeny tiny, this is 10 milliliters, little syringe, and you can even start with 5. So like half of this amount of fresh urine, and you just take a little dish and catch it, and then you pull this up to 5. So again, tiny amount. And then you only put the tip in the rectum, and you can depress that. That amount, that's a tiny amount of urine to start with. If you're grossed out by everything else, but you think, I want to try this and see what will happen, that is something that a lot of people do. Again, I'm not, prescribing it in that sense, but it's an option amongst all the different things that can be done. And some of the things that we've found, now, starting with fresh urine, absolutely. This amount will either go in, the first couple times it might feel weird, don't get me wrong. If you're not used to doing this, your body's going to go, what are you doing? But people who have worked with me over time say it's not a big deal. It's not hard to do. They actually start finding, like one friend of mine did it for about 2 weeks recently, and then traveled for work and came back and said, I missed it. My body must like it because I missed it. Wow. And so she looks forward to it now. It's part of her morning routine, part of showering and brushing her teeth. It's just part of the routine. And she started with 5 milliliters. You can up it to 10 after a while, but I've tried everything from 5 milliliters to 80 milliliters a day. And more isn't always better with this. You don't need to hit your system with more right away. I do this every day, but I do about 10 to 15 every day. And that's where I am very happy with it. If I was trying to treat something, if I was really constipated, or I broke my tailbone this past year, when the tailbone was really hurting, I did it multiple times a day, because every time I did it, it felt better. So it was giving me pain relief. But I haven't continued that. That was a chronic moment. That was a moment of pain.
Yeah, that was for a reason. Yeah,
exactly. A very specific reason. When you start with urine, when I said Shiva's the Lord of Destruction, one of the things that urine does, or that idea of Shivambhu goes hunting, it pulls out inflammation, which is a word you mentioned already too. And it's a key word in chronic disease, that almost every disease involves inflammation of some kind.
Absolutely.
What is one of the key ways that we see inflammation? It's in mucus and in things that are hot and red, right? So what does urine often do when people start? Mucus coming out of the intestine. So they'll get diarrhea, or they'll just get a lot of mucusy stool. Mucus coming out of the nose, the throat, the sinuses, sometimes the eyes, sometimes the ears, sometimes the skin will then go rashy, which
Okay,
is
so people mustn't be alarmed and thinking it's not working. It's actually
yes,
working. Your body's detoxing itself and it's actually working. So don't
exactly.
stop. Got it. I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Yeah. Now, but this is why I say go slowly, because if you go slowly, you're unlikely to have a major reaction where you have a head cold with really bad sinuses for a week. That's unlikely to happen, right? So this is, you take it slow. And the first time I drank all of my urine, I had basically 3 to 5 days of every symptom from every cold I'd ever had. And I went through a lot of Kleenex and I just basically slept for 5 days, but that never happened again.
Ah, okay. So
Right.
you had an episode, it detoxed, and then your body was on the road to recovery.
And now if I get a cold, I do the same thing. I start doing a lot of urine processes because I think you're already trying to detox something. I'm going to help you. I'm going to do more.
Okay.
But I use it to support myself now. But I've been doing this every day for 11 years. So my relationship with it now is very different than it was at the beginning.
Yes.
And this is where I come back to go slowly, take your time, introduce one thing, observe what's happening, notice the shifts and changes. I talked to someone recently who's been drinking a little bit every day for the last year. And they said, well, I don't really think much happened, but they've been trying to be healthy for a very long time.
Okay.
But then the more we talked, they said, but I did notice that I was getting, in the mornings, I had mucus coming out. And I haven't had that for years. Well, there's the detox. It was just very gentle and slow for that person. And so instead of hitting her with a month being in bed every day, when she did the urine therapy, when she drank it, she would bring up mucus and it would come out. So great. That's how her body did it. But it's so unique and specific to each person.
Lovely. Lovely. Now, can you share with us, there's a 21-day study, stem cell study, that I would like you to share this and the data and research about that.
So Wake Forest University in the United States has done multiple studies on urine for all different reasons, some of which are very far removed from the human because they're taking the urine, they're extracting one thing out of it, and then they're studying the thing. But they did do a very exciting one where they took a group of men, and they were in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. And they took their urine and they aged it for 3 weeks. And what they were looking at was the stem cells in particular. So human-derived urine stem cells are what they're called. Right. And now they did also isolate them, right? So they took the stem cells out of the larger amount, and they used different mediums to put the stem cells in and really monitor them so that everybody's stem cells were treated equally. So we'll add that to the mix, that you and I wouldn't be doing that at home. But at the general tone of it is this: in the fresh urine samples, an amount that was registered was about 140 stem cells when it was fresh. At the end, we're talking about over 100 million stem cells in 3 weeks.
Obviously your own stem cells.
Yes.
That's amazing.
The people, even amongst the different age ranges, then they tested them for viability, because it's one thing to have them, but are they all strong? Are they ready to do their thing? And the younger people, so in the 20s and 30s, they had more of like 60 to 70% viability, but even the older people still had 40%, 35 to 40% viability. That's a lot of stem cells.
That is. And
these are also stem cells which are able to differentiate. So I've been learning different words now. I don't have a science background by training, but there's stem cells that are very much, our body makes stem cells all over the place for all different tissues in our bodies all the time. But some of them, it's like it's created by a certain tissue, and that's the kind of tissue it will recreate. That's what it wants to do. It's been designed to do that. So it's harder to make that stem cell do something else. Whereas the stem cells in our urine are happy to differentiate or to turn into other things. So if we want to make them into muscle tissue, they can do that. If we want to make them into bone tissue, they can do that. They grew a tooth in China back in 2013 using human-derived urine stem cells.
Come on, that came out from your urine.
They
It
made
grew
a
a
tooth.
tooth.
Yes.
Oh my, I'm blown away.
And that is available online. Like if you search for tooth urine-derived stem cells China, you'll see the pictures that they had of this tooth. So this is part of what's
How come you
exciting
never
about it.
hear of these things?
Well, part of it is society. It's society, again, is generally grossed out. We've been very well trained to
Yeah,
think of this as taboo, as
yeah,
gross,
trained.
as problematic. And it's also an area where nobody's interested in doing a study on 200 people who drink their own urine, because you can't do a double-blind placebo study because everyone has to drink their urine.
Right,
You can't give everybody the same urine.
right.
And even if you make everybody eat the same thing, everyone's body's going to deal with it differently because we all have different DNA.
Yeah.
And so can you study 200 people who drink their own urine? Absolutely you can, but you can't put all those words on top of it that they like to throw around, like double-blind placebo, etc.
Right.
It's not going to work. So we do need to be doing studies. We do need to be looking at individuals. This study from Wake Forest University, it's from 2022 for anyone who wants to look it up. And it specifically is looking at these individuals and what happened over 3 weeks. I'll throw into the mix. A friend of mine did a study on aged urine. She had people aging it for 2 weeks. She had 12 people who'd never done urine therapy at all. And she only had them inject 5 milliliters of 2-week-old every day for, was it 2 or 3 weeks? I think it was 2, but at the moment, I think it was, I don't remember all the details right now. I have an interview with her on my YouTube as well. Her name is Darlene Tien. She's doing a PhD. She's not done yet. So people are going to go, where can I find this? She hasn't published it yet. All 12 of the people in her study after 2 weeks had reduced inflammation in the liver.
That's amazing.
And all they did was 5 milliliters of 2-week-old evolved or aged urine. She specifically said, don't change your diet, don't change your exercise, don't change anything. She did give them breathing exercises to do.
Okay.
Because you're dealing with expansion, you're dealing with more energy, you're changing something in your life. So breathing, learning how to breathe and regulate your nervous system is a really good thing to be able to do for everybody, but that's the only thing she added to them. If you want to know more about that, you can check out the video. I talked to her for a full hour about the research. But the point is that the urine is helping the body to do something like reduce liver inflammation, which is really hard to pinpoint in people. And all of the people, I mean, she had 12 people in her study, but they all had that. Some of them had other things too. They all had better oxygenation in their blood. They were all sleeping better. They all felt calmer.
Oh, how amazing is that?
So there are ways to do studies with this.
Yes.
But also where there's not a lot of money in it, because what it means is we all become more self-sufficient. We all rely on ourselves more. We all feel like we have the ability to work with our own body and what it needs. And we need less from the outside.
And isn't that how it should be?
Absolutely.
Isn't that how it should be? Because the body has an amazing ability to heal itself if you give it the right tools.
Yep, absolutely.
So that's brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. I can't believe our time is up already. So before ending off, I know you have a brilliant surprise for everyone. You have a free gift to offer. I will put the floor is yours. Share what everybody can get from you.
Absolutely. So there'll be a link to get, I've decided to say like the top 10 ways to integrate urine therapy or Shivambhu practices into your life, because now that you've heard about them and you're thinking, that's a lot of information, what can I do? I've created just a little guide that gives you some options so that you feel like you have a choice. And I've just said top 10 ways, and it's to start. Now, if you've already been doing urine therapy for a while and you're just delighted we're talking about this, you'll still find something interesting in there. Because I'll offer, some other aspects you may not have heard about before, but this is a way for you to at least think about it. And again, think about it like having something extra in your medicine cabinet, something extra in your toolbox. I consult with people and I do courses and all of that, but the more you think of it as your medicine, the better. So that's what I want to do. I want to empower you to
be empowered.
Have some ways that you can try these practices yourself and feel confident with it. So that's my freebie to you.
Lovely. And lastly, I cannot leave this conversation without you sharing this. Usually for women, you don't ever ask this question. You don't ask women two things: what their weight and their age. However, please share with everyone how long you have been doing urine therapy for and what is your age.
So I am 47 years old and I started doing this 11 years ago when I was 35. 30, yeah, because just where my birthday lands in the calendar, I was 35 when I started. So it's been 11 and a half years. So I'm now 47 and the difference in my skin, in how my skin responds to the sun. I have very, very Celtic skin and I tan now instead of burning. And
Wow.
I don't use sunscreens, and even the change has been phenomenal and my skin is showing it.
You look amazing. As I said before, you look like you're 12. It's so not right. It's so not fair. I say that in love. Beautiful skin of a 12-year-old.
Yeah,
You
so
don't act
this
like
is
12. I'm just saying you look like 12.
Oh no,
You look
it's
at your hair,
wonderful.
your skin, you're absolutely stunning. I'm blown away by that. So, and to hear that by putting on urine on your skin, there's your sunscreen. I mean, most sunscreens are toxic. So if people didn't know that, stay away from conventional sunscreens. Yeah. So how brilliant. Thank you for your time, Megan. From Megan to Megan, I thank you from my heart to yours. This was such a beautiful time to learn and get a new skill. And thank you for sharing the wisdom and science behind urine therapy.
You're so welcome. Thank you to everyone who joined in, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this summit.
Thank you so much.